disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bills.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where LIFTT comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. LIFTT. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at LIFTT have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to LIFTT. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with LIFTT was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community.
Good day and welcome to Living Well in Montana. Living Well in Montana is a program of living independently for today and tomorrow, or LIFTT as we like to call ourselves, LIFTT. LIFTT is what is known as a Center for Independent Living. We are a nonprofit source of information, resources, and advocacy for people with all types of disabilities of all ages across our 18-county service area in southeastern and south central Montana. For more information about LIFTT, I encourage you to please visit our website at liftt.org or download our mobile app for your Apple or Android device. Just search LIFTT in your preferred app store. My name is Jed Barton, and I am the Communications and Government Affairs Coordinator at LIFTT, and alongside me today as co-host is John Robison, our Outreach and Community Health Director. Before we introduce our guests, a word of caution. Our topic today is domestic abuse and violence, and we do realize that some viewers may find this a difficult or even traumatic subject for viewing, and understand if you choose to surf to a different channel or video. But we feel that the frank and honest discussion and information that will be presented here is of vital importance to those who choose to continue watching. With that said, I would like to introduce Erin Lambert. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Billings YWCA. The Billings YWCA is, amongst many other things, a leading organization in the Billings community when it comes to assisting the victims of domestic violence. Welcome to Living Well in Montana, Erin.
Thanks, Jed. I'm happy to be here.
So, good morning, Ms. Erin. So, once again, I'm John Robison. I'm the Outreach Director for LIFTT. Let's start off, if you don't mind. Tell us who you are, a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm Erin Lambert, and as Jed said, I'm the CEO at YWCA Billings. I started as a volunteer when I was in college about 18 years ago, and have worked my way up providing services and doing more administrative functions, and about 6 months ago was named permanent CEO, which was really exciting. In addition to my passion for working with survivors of domestic and sexual violence, I'm also a mom of 3 and have an amazing husband as well at home who keeps me on my toes.
Nice. Are you originally from the Billings area?
I'm not. I grew up in Lewistown, but I've been in Billings for about 20 years.
Okay, very nice. Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. Domestic abuse and violence is a term that we hear often in the news and in the broader culture, but like many of those terms, the definitions and derivations may differ from one person or group to another. Is there a definition of domestic abuse and violence that your program uses that we could sort of use as a groundwork for what we're talking about here?
Yeah. So we think of domestic violence not simply as a single act of physical aggression between 2 people. That certainly can be a part of it, but we want to think of domestic violence more in terms of a pattern of power and control between 2 people. So in a relationship, one person is taking actions, whether it be verbal, emotional, or otherwise, that are specifically meant to keep the other partner under control, or doing as the aggressive partner wants them to do. And while women are majority victims, I would say that the vast majority of victims are women. I do want to make it clear that men can experience domestic violence as well. So this is something that can go both ways, and it happens in lots of different relationships. So.
Okay.
So, just to be clear, this categorizes both the physical and the mental side of the abuse.
Yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
Financial is a big one as
Yes.
well that you need to watch out for.
Okay. If you don't mind, what are some of the specific services that your organization there at the YWCA, what do they offer to the victims?
So we have a robust menu of services for survivors. It starts with our emergency services, which include a 24-hour helpline. Advocates are there ready to answer and They can screen survivors for eligibility for services, so they find out a little bit about what's happening and figure out if someone meets the criteria to participate in our programs. They also sometimes call just because they need somebody to talk to. You know, maybe they've experienced violence and they're having nightmares and they wake up in the middle of the night and could talk to somebody and maybe feel better. We're happy to take those calls. We're happy to talk through and say, hey, here's what's happening in my relationship. What do you think? Is this a healthy relationship or is this dangerous? And we can talk that through as well.
So if, let's say, for example, hypothetically, if I was a victim, obviously I'm assuming that we could either make the phone call or possibly go to the website.
Yes.
What's that website?
YWCA Billings.org.
Okay. And we'll make sure towards the end we'll go ahead and announce that again.
Okay.
And would you know off the top of your head the phone number?
Yes.
Okay.
Our 24-hour helpline is 406-245-4472.
Okay.
We also have a text line if people prefer to text message.
Oh, wow.
That's 406-702-0229.
So you can either go to the website, call, or text. That's amazing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So once somebody, I've got more services I can
yeah,
run
go
through.
ahead.
Please.
Once somebody calls and has been determined eligible, another emergency service we have is our Gateway Horizons shelter. So it is emergency shelter. People come in and they can stay for up to 90 days in that shelter at no cost to them. We have linens, the kitchens are stocked with cooking utensils, and the rooms are ready to be moved into, we include a full-sized set of toiletries in the bathrooms when people move in that are there for the survivors to take with them and have. It's really important to us that we provide survivors dignity, and one of those things is basic needs like being able to take a shower without having to ask, like I need soap or shampoo. And while we do use the travel size, toiletries in a spare basket that people can take if they need more, just giving somebody a full bottle of shampoo is really important for that dignity piece. Also in our shelter, we have free laundry on site, and we provide the laundry supplies as well. We have a food pantry. We operate kind of like family service in that it's client shopping, so they make an appointment and they can go into that pantry and take what they want back to their apartment. So we're not preparing or putting together food baskets that include things that they may not want to eat. They can choose what they want. And that is in partnership with Family Service and the Montana Food Bank Network. They help keep us in food, so that's pretty fantastic.
That's amazing.
In addition to emergency shelter, our third emergency service is our hospital accompaniment. So if somebody experiences rape or sexual violence, we go to Billings Clinic with them while they have a forensic evidence collection exam done. Our primary role there is just to be a friend and an advocate, make sure they've got a warm blanket, something to eat or drink when it's appropriate in the process. We can answer questions, offer resources, and like I said, just that companionship during a really dark time. Once people are in the emergency services, they also have access to another set of supportive services that can help them to move forward. So we've got our housing navigation program, which is solely designed to help survivors find housing in the community, both affordable and safe. We want to make sure that when we're helping people find housing, that it's livable housing, which sometimes in Billings, affordable and livable are two different things.
Difficult.
But our housing navigator is really good at advocating for survivors and finding something that will work. Yeah.
Well, we're on the subject of survivors here. By no means is domestic abuse only a problem that affects persons with disabilities or only affects people in Billings, Montana, anywhere there's people on the planet, probably, unfortunately. But could you speak a little bit, again, LIFTT is a disability-led organization. All of us who work at LIFTT pretty much have disabilities. All the people we serve have disabilities. So it seems like that people with disabilities, and the specific number eludes me, but seem almost exponentially more likely to experience some form of domestic abuse and violence. Is that true? And is there any sort of explanation of the how and why?
It is true that they experience rates higher than the average population. It's a little challenging to categorize exactly what that percentage is. Different sources have different, calculations.
Right.
Domestic violence as a whole is such an underrepresented or underreported crime, and I think people who experience or live with disabilities potentially are even less likely to report because of some of their vulnerabilities, and I think that's one of the reasons that makes violence against people with disabilities even more insidious, is just that, there's different techniques and things that you can do. Somebody who's experiencing disabilities might rely on medications to be healthy, and an abusive partner could withhold those medications as a tactic of abuse. We've heard of cases where the person used some sort of assistive device in their everyday life, and the abusive partner destroys or withholds that assistive device, like walkers or canes or other things that are aids of daily living. Financial abuse and exploitation can be really common among folks with disabilities as well. Certainly not all, but it is an extra vulnerability, and I think that unfortunately some people prey on or target those with disabilities in an effort to exert that control.
That's something that we've witnessed firsthand, where you have caregiver withholding the funds of people within disabilities, and it's sad.
Yes.
It's very sad.
Sad, and I think, depending on what the nature of the relationship is, caregiver or a partner, if you're relying on that person to help you live independently, it can be even harder to walk away from that relationship than it is for somebody who doesn't have those barriers or challenges. And that's why I know we have a few clients, we work together with LIFTT.
I was just in your building the other day. Day.
We really appreciate, we also want to empower people to live independently, and I assume much like you guys, we have a mission of bringing out the strengths in people and amplifying those. We're not looking at the things that people can't do or the things that they're lacking. We really want to identify what their strengths are and amplify those in order to make sure that they can be safe and independent. Our programs aren't a treatment program. People didn't do anything wrong to end up there, and they don't need us to fix them. They need a friend, they need an advocate, and that's what we do.
They just need somebody at that specific moment of need. So are there any other resources that you offer that you would like to let our viewers know about?
Yeah, just a couple more programs to go through. We also have legal services on site, so our attorney helps with civil legal matters such as divorces, orders of protection. She could also probably help in cases if there's something specifically disability related, like small claims, if there's a financial need potentially. As long as it's related to the victimization, we could take a look at it. She's probably going to hate me for putting out there that she can do those things, but
yes, she is.
Yeah. We're always looking for ways that we can address whatever the needs of the survivor or victim are. We're not telling them what they need to do. We say, hey, what would make your life better, and how do we get there? We also have a case management program. So that one, Debbie is our case manager, and she gets all of the things that everybody else falls outside of their bubble. She's the one that helps make connections with community resources like LIFTT. She helps people relocate to other communities if that's something that they want. She's helped people get bicycles so that they can get to work, if they don't have vehicles. She helps them replace documents like birth certificates, social security cards, all of those things that people need. So I would certainly want the viewers to know.
We do a lot of similar things for anyone and everybody with disabilities at LIFTT.
Yes.
So,
And I can imagine that somebody who is living with disabilities that leaves an abusive relationship potentially are even more vulnerable to not having those documents because the abusive person has withheld them, destroyed them, whatever the case may be. So we want to make sure we're connecting people with those resources. So
we have about 7.5 minutes
okay.
left here. And one of the things is, what are some of the signs for sort of shifting gears here from services to what are some of the signs that people should be aware of that might possibly mean they themselves or somebody they know are experiencing domestic abuse and violence? And how do we get past those almost competing cultural traits we have here in Montana? We like to mind our own business, but yet we're the first people to show up when somebody's house burns down, or we pull them, or we have the stuff in our cars to pull them out of the snowbank.
Absolutely.
How do we get people to use this term that they use in the schools, go from being a bystander to being an upstander?
Yeah, and that one I feel like in domestic violence situations is even more complicated. But we'll start with the first part of that question, which is what the signs might be. And one that I always look for is people that appear like they aren't able to make choices for themselves, or they seem to be deferring to a caregiver or a partner before they answer questions. That's a really big one. It indicates that there's that power and control there, that one person isn't feeling safe. Certainly unexplained injuries, bruises. And I think a lot of people think of like black eyes or, really obvious injuries, but it may not be that obvious. It could be just, frequent injuries with, gosh, I'm just so clumsy. Some people might be clumsy, but you can only have so many accidents before you start to say, is there something else going on here? Sometimes reluctance to seek medical care for those injuries can be a sign that something is going on. Fear, other, hesitations to, like I said, make decisions. If there's unexplained financial patterns, somebody appears unwilling to spend their own money or doesn't seem to be able to meet their basic needs, even though their income or the money that's coming in should cover those. If they maybe aren't getting what they need, potentially frequently missing appointments. It could be if they're depending on a caregiver to provide transportation or other things. If they're not showing up a lot, that's certainly, there could be other reasons, but you might want to scratch the surface a little bit more. And as far as the moving from a bystander to an upstander, the best thing that you can do is ask the question, do you feel safe? Is everything okay? And I would say that their first answer might be, yep, everything's fine. It's a hard thing to disclose. So the next best thing you can do is say, if you ever need help, I'm here for you. We can find resources. There's solutions to every problem. I would always caution people that saying things like, you just need to leave, what did you do to end up in this situation? He's a bad guy, or she's just bad. The foundation of all relationships is love, right? And so if you are saying bad things about their partner or their caregiver who they have feelings or care for, you're going to alienate them. You're not going to help them. So I would avoid saying negative things about the abusive person and focus again on the positive about how do we get resources. I want you to be safe. I'm worried about you. I want to make sure that everything's going okay. And if you ever need me, you let me know and we'll find resources together. I think that's a much better way to go about it.
That is amazing. That's something that I think that the viewers that's a definite message we needed to know.
Yes.
Thank you for that. So we're running close on time, so I just got one more thing I got to ask you about.
Yeah.
I keep on hearing about something called the Family Justice Center. What is that?
The Family Justice Center, such an exciting project. Family Justice Center is a model of co-location of victim services. It started in San Diego in the early 2000s. It is now throughout the U.S. I believe there's 131 family justice centers in Montana, or excuse me, not in Montana, in the United States. We would be the first one in Montana if we could get something going. And right now, the City of Billings, some concerned community members and organizations, along with YWCA Billings and the police department and the city attorney's office, have said, I think it's time for something like this here in Billings. And so we've been working diligently over the last 6 or 8 months to develop a family justice center here in Billings. Going so far as we contracted with the Family Justice Center Alliance. That was the City of Billings funded that and signed the contract. Some folks, experts from the Family Justice Center Alliance, made 2 visits to Billings. They were here in June and got to know our community a little bit, and then they came back in September and did a 2-day strategic planning exercise with the community. And we had representatives from LIFTT at that retreat, and really that was the community coming together and saying, what do we need? What do we want in our community? And now we've got a steering committee that's working on putting that blueprint together, and hopefully in the not terribly distant future, we'll be able to announce at least a start small project of a family justice center.
Is there a projective tentative date that might be a reality?
We don't have a date per se, but we feel like 6 months to a year is a realistic timeline.
Okay.
If we really get ourselves together, we might be able to do something a little sooner, and it could take a little longer. There's a lot of moving pieces and, partners in this, and funding, is always the magic word. That we can do a lot of things, but if the money isn't there, it may slow us down. Right. So we'll be working on all that. And like I said, the steering committee meets monthly. So like I said, we're keeping the ball rolling, and I'm hopeful that in the next month or 2 we'll be able to announce some exciting partnerships that are happening behind the scenes that will move that forward.
Very good. Thank you.
In the last 30 seconds here, what are those numbers for people in crisis again?
If they want to call, it's 406-245-4472. If text message is preferable, that is 406-702-0229.
Or the website?
YWCABillings.org.
Perfect.
Erin Lambert, CEO of the YWCA here in Billings, thank you for joining us on Living Well Montana.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.